Hey, what's up, guys? So I've been getting a lot of questions recently about detail normals. I talk about them a lot in the Discord critiques and even in the portfolio critiques. I find them really important, and they're basically required when you want to sell a surface in 3D, especially real time, when you can't be like pre-rendering high resolution displacements on surfaces. So I put together a small little asset based off of what you guys have see on the stream all the time. Hello. So we've got this mesh here. This is relatively, I would say this is like a medium poly mesh. It was generated by modeling it and sculpting it in ZBrush, and then pushing it through Houdini to create the low poly and auto unwrap to create the UVs. Then I baked out a normal map and a ambient occlusion, and then brought those into Unity, and then here we are. So I've just put a basic shader on here, and essentially I have a smoothness value with just some tileable texture. Then I have the normal map, the occlusion, excuse me, for the AO, and then here's the detail normal. So when you look at a normal map, let's just turn it on. So we've got the normal map on here. I'm going to turn off the outline and the wire as well, so you can just look at the mesh itself. You see it's pretty low res, right? And you're like, okay, well, normally when people first start baking out normal maps for high poly meshes, like you only have so much UV space. So what you'll do is let's navigate to the normal map. So here's the normal map. It's baked out at a 512. So what people tend to do is they'll be like, oh, I'll just bake it out at a 2048 and see it looks higher res. But in reality, you can't just be pumping out a bunch of 2048s and 4K textures for real-time production. Like, games just don't ship with that type of resolution on like tons of assets. They have to be a very specific scenario in which that would occur. So let's go ahead and let's bring that AO back down, or the normal back down to let's say for this one, it's a 1024, just because it'll be reused a lot. I mean, the resolution difference between the two, like if you look at this detail here, this is a normal map at 1024. Going to 512, you're losing some detail, sure. But if we go back here and we look at this normal, so this normal here is the detail normal. This is the one that I'm doing the video about. So this is just a kind of surface describing normal map that's tiling, and it's a 1024. Usually detail normals are like a 256, and in crazy scenarios a 512. So let's go ahead and make this a 256 as well. So you can see it's a bit lower res, but we're gonna blend the two together, and you can see like when I click on the asset, there's already a secondary maps channel. So there's, well, you have a detail normal, you also have detail albedo, but for this stream, we're just gonna look at the normal map. So this is the baked 0 to 1 normal, and we're gonna have the secondary map with this other tileable detail normal brought in on the same UV set 0. Now in Unity, you can choose from the UV sets that the asset supports. So if you imported with 4 UVs, you'll have 4 options here. Preferably, the less UV sets, the better for an asset, just for expense reasons. But multi-UV sets are a thing and are pretty widely used in AAA. So let's just say UV set 0. So you can see the surface here. This is a, what did we say this was? This is a 512, 0 to 1. Then we'll turn this normal map on, and you can see it's already added some surface detail. And I'll just do this on and off. So you can see detail normals are being added there, but they're only tiled once, right? This is where the magic of like detail normals comes in. When you start tiling it more, so this is tiled 5 times, so you can see the information that's there. And then you've got your strength here as well. So maybe you turn the strength up. And I would argue that 1 is fine. You probably shouldn't be boosting your normals too often. You should be using the range that you've designed it for. because as lighting gets harsher, you're gonna start to notice some like really intense values occurring on the surface of your assets. So let's go ahead and take a look at this mesh. So you can see all the information that's there. And prior to that, it was softer like this. Now, if you're limited to a 512 normal and then you can put a detail normal on there, you're going to be in a much better spot already, right? Now, for portfolio reasons, maybe you can just turn that up, because it just doesn't matter all that much when it's your portfolio. You're just trying to make something look good. So let's do a 1024 for the 0 to 1. Sharpens that up. Then we'll go back in here and then go to the detail normal. And I'll make that, well, hell, we can go 1024. So the reason I'm going to go this high is because if I use this detail normal on everything, then it's totally worth it. If it's the whole scene's all stone materials, I might as well use this detail normal, right? So you can see the level of fidelity I'm getting now, or simulated fidelity, and it's just two normal maps being blended together. Let me see actually if I go in here and make this a 512 just to lower it and see. It's still okay. That's not bad. 1.2? Yeah. 1.2 strength seems to get it close to what it looked like when it was 1024. Now, as an asset gets larger, you need to think about the size of your detail normal, right? So if this arch is huge, the detail normal needs to be tiling much more. You can see, like, as you get closer, see how well that holds up. Maybe it's 25. So even though this information is quite low res, as long as your detail information is assisting you, you can get quite a bit closer before it starts to break down. But in my opinion, this looks bad just because of the scale. Like, I know how big these are, and to depict the surface that I'm trying to show, this is the resolution or tiling amount that I'm looking for. The other thing is, I guess I just want to point out how important ambient occlusion is. So in PBR game engines, or physically based rendering game engines, you'll notice that the ambient occlusion is separated out from the other maps in the like in Unreal. It's in the material stack node. It's got its own input, and even in Unity, it's got its own input. So it's right here. Now the reason it's doing that is because in real life, ambient occlusion shouldn't occur in direct sunlight, right? And PBR isn't necessarily physically correct. It's accurate, but it's not perfect. Like, it's not real, right? So we have to simulate the ambient occlusion. So what is happening is by this being separated like this, you can do a render pass that's separate in the viewport or in your buffers. And one of those buffers is ambient occlusion. Now the ambient occlusion gets masked by the shadow map. So where there's direct light, you will not get ambient occlusion. Where there is shadow or simulated shadow through normal maps, you will get AO. So let's turn the ambient occlusion on. Ambient occlusion does a lot. Like, you see that difference, and you see how much AO there is under here. If we turn this upside down, that AO will go away, just because now it's in direct light. But yeah, so ambient occlusion, detail normals, super important. Making sure your roughness looks good based on the material that you're trying to depict is also very important. And of course, my albedo is just a color right now, but I think you get the point. This is nice for detail information if you want to show off surface info. But make sure your roughness looks, make sure your roughness looks pretty good. And you get your AO in there. And I can get this back up here so you can see your ambient occlusion. All right, cool. Hopefully that was helpful. In Unreal, it runs the same way. It's node-based, of course, instead of being like this. And in the new Unity material editor, it's node-based also. But essentially, all you're doing is blending two normal maps together and then taking the detail normal and tiling it by a higher amount. And yeah. All right. Hopefully that was helpful. I'll see you guys later. Thanks, dudes. Thank you.